Tanse, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Creeson Agecoutay. Thank you for joining us. The Dakota Tipi First Nation in Manitoba is taking the all levels of government to court, saying that the Forks in Winnipeg is unceded territory of their nation. They also allege that the defendants unjustifiably infringed on Dakota Tipi Nation's rights to the land. The lawsuit was filed at Manitoba Court of King's Bench on Friday. It says the Dakota Tipi Nation is the direct descendants of Agecoutay Nation, who are the original inhabitants of the Forks land. The First Nation is seeking damages surrounding loss of harvesting and ceremonial sites, including traditional, cultural, and spiritual practices, economic growth, and enjoyment of the land. The lawsuit also lists the North Portage Development Corporation. On July 15th, Canada apologized to the Dakota and Lakota for historically labeling them as refugees. They were therefore excluded from treaty agreements. The claims have yet to be proven in court. Opposition continues to grow against the Trudeau government's decision to reduce the amount of funding available to First Nations conducting searches for unmarked graves on the sites of former residential schools. 2 First Nations in Northern Ontario have joined the call for the government to rescind its decision, and an online petition is also circulating asking for a reversal of the move. APTN's Fraser Needham has the story.
The government slashed funding for searches of unmarked graves from $3 million to $500,000. That decision brought dozens of protesters to Parliament Hill last month. Now 2 First Nations in Northern Ontario are also speaking out. Grassy Narrows First Nation Chief Rudy Turtle says the announcement has scuttled his community's plans to do a search of the grounds of the former Macintosh residential school.
And as a result, we have to reduce our team and reduce our costs, and it's just going to make it less effective. It's just not a good situation.
Lac Seul First Nation Councillor Derek Maude says they are also very disappointed.
It sets us back, obviously, especially with the operations of this thing, because it's a lot of work they're doing, and we're not even breaking ground yet to search.
Add to this an online petition calling on the government to reverse its decision, which had reached over 2,300 signatures by Friday. The federal NDP has also weighed in, sending a letter to Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anishinaabemowin demanding answers for the cuts. NDP MP Nikki Ashton says the Liberals have done nothing short of breaking an election promise.
Right now is that the Liberals actually campaigned, made it as part of their campaign commitment to invest in reconciliation and answers for communities coming out of the discoveries at Kamloops. And here we are 3 years later. We've seen an 85% cut in the funding to communities.
Turtle says the government has an obligation to provide the necessary funding for communities to conduct proper and thorough searches.
This is not the time to be doing funding cuts, especially with residential school searches. And if the federal government is serious about reconciliation, this is not the way to go about it.
And Maude hopes the government will revisit its decision, if only for the sake of survivors.
I guess they really want closure, but if the federal government's slashing funding dramatically like that, it's just like it puts a halt on this vehicle that we're driving, and it's really disheartening, to be honest.
In an emailed statement, Crown Indigenous Relations says the government provided $91 million to the Residential Schools Missing Children Community Support Fund in this year's budget. And changes to how funding is delivered represents a more sustainable approach to include as many community-led applications as possible. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The Yukon government says 68 dead fish were recently found in a creek downstream of the Eagle Gold Mine near the community of Mayo. The mine is located on the traditional territory of the First Nation of Anishinaabemowin. In June, an equipment failure caused cyanide to be released into the surrounding equipment. At a press conference on Friday, government officials said the fish likely died due to discharge from the mine's water treatment plant, as opposed to contaminants in the surrounding environment. They say cyanide breaks down rapidly in tissues and shouldn't affect animals that eat fish carcasses. Victoria Gold, the mine's owner, has since been ordered by the Department of Oceans and Fisheries to build barriers along the creek.
The death of a large group of fish like that, of multiple species, in a really short period of time is completely consistent with what we would expect from cyanide toxicity.
Over in Ontario, the federal government has announced $1 million for an Indigenous organization supporting youth and families in North Bay. CTV's Amanda Hicks has the story.
Ndayan Aja is the recipient of $1 million in funding provided through a federal program allocated to various Indigenous housing projects across Canada.
This funding is very important because it allows people on the ground to actually put together a vision and actually have a vehicle on how to get funding from the federal government for new housing. New housing is something that is important to all of us, and it's somewhere that we need somewhere to be safe at night.
The CEO of Ndayan Aja says the funding will allow the hiring of 6 additional staff members with a focus on housing and transitional support for 100 youth.
So we hired a youth systems navigator that will help the youth navigate systems like education, housing, and the justice system and the healthcare system. In providing the ongoing continuing supports that we have, so medicine bundles, care packages, transportation support, food support, and stuff like that.
The grassroots organization was born 4 years ago in Natasha Larvier's living room with the hope of helping at-risk Indigenous youth.
They are leaders in the community, and the youth that come here and to receive supports, they see that, and then they're empowered to make changes within themselves and within the community. So it's just a ripple effect that happens, and I'm very proud of all the youth that come through our doors and that work for us as well.
Since 2020, Larvier estimates more than 300 youth and their families have received support through the organization, with the goal of one day expanding services across Canada. Amanda Hicks, CTV News, North Bay.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. And you can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A bodybuilder from a First Nation in Ontario is making a name for himself. We'll tell you about his uplifting story when we're back in about 3 minutes. Stick around. welcome back. An Algonquin bodybuilder is on a natural high from a winning streak he experienced over the past 12 months. A year ago, we introduced you to Zach Liberty, a member of Agecoutay First Nation. Annette Francis caught up with him at the gym once again.
Zach Liberty has been on a winning streak this summer.
Right, so the first three here are what I won from the Ottawa competition in June. There are three separate divisions that I won first place in. At the end of that competition, what they do is they take the gold medalists and they put them against each other. So the top people in the men's physique category battle it out, and I was lucky enough to win that. So that's where the crown comes from. And then with that win, I qualified to compete on the national level.
He placed third in Toronto last weekend at Canada's national competition.
It had been, suggested to me in the past that I give it a try, and I was always kind of like, maybe, and then I decided to just do it. The reason I was kind of holding back all along is like these kind of competitions are very vain by nature. There's a lot of vanity involved, and I was almost a little bit embarrassed to go for it, right? Like, okay, because you're judged specifically on your physique and your body. But I kind of just decided, what the hell, screw what anyone else thinks and just go for it, you know what I mean? So
we first met Liberty over a year ago when he was training for a powerlifting competition. Since then, he decided to make the switch to bodybuilding before he turned 30.
The training regimen's about 5 days a week in weightlifting, but it also requires a lot of cardio. So that's about 5 sessions of Stairmaster and a couple runs a week on top of that. So my life will very much be the gym.
For now, he'll be taking a bit of a break from training, but that doesn't mean he'll be on the couch.
I do a lot of running as well, so I actually have a couple runs booked. So I'm going to be doing the Army Run in September here in Ottawa, and then I'm going to be doing the Toronto Waterfront Marathon in October. But then after that, I'm going to be gearing up to compete again. So next August 2025, I'm back at the national level trying to win that gold.
For anyone wanting a healthier lifestyle, Liberty suggests to start with daily movement.
And then once you find out what you're good at through that daily movement, be it sports, running, whatever it is, capitalize on it, right? Capitalize on it, invest your time in what you're good at, and great things will come for you if you just stay doing it every day. Greatness is created by doing unextraordinary things for an extraordinary amount of time. So just keep at it and keep pushing.
To keep up with Liberty's journey, you can follow him on Instagram at liberty.fit and at Francis, APTN National News, Gatineau, Quebec.
Great words of advice. Thanks, Annette. Star Wars A New Hope was recently dubbed into Anishinaabemowin, and it made its world debut at a Winnipeg concert hall last week. The event was done in a grand way from beginning to end, where the force was strong with language and culture. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
From the moment Margaret Simmons and her family entered the venue, this language teacher beamed with pride and joy.
Look at all these people, they're going to listen to it in our language, in Ojibwe, like how exciting that is. My heart is just beating.
Her daughter even made ribbon skirts with Star Wars print for the big night.
I just had to create skirts. My sister's a villain, of course, and I get to be Princess Leia. But no, for real, we get to represent the good. There's a lot of teachings that correlate with our teachings, and even our ribbons inspire a message of truth, hope.
From traditional dress to full-blown costumes, many here will forever know Star Wars New Hope as Anigung Migating. There was even a grand entry to start the night off in a good way, and Anishinaabemowin prayers. And even some good old Nish humor from Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe. In the hall, Noah Robinson shows off his lightsaber skills. He led in the dancers with his drum group earlier. After watching the Anishinaabemowin version, he shared words about his solo battle.
Would have loved to sit down and with like my own grandmother and have her like translate it for me herself rather than even reading the subtitles. So it meant a lot. I got a little emotional at one point.
Heartfelt emotions that many seem to have, including Wanda Barker, who said the language itself embodies its own heartbeat.
With the characters there, it was brought it to life, because in the language there's a lot of humor. We laugh at anything and everything.
Blake Agecoutay is an artist who's made Anishinaabe paintings of Star Wars characters for years.
It's like the story of my life and culture, and I like taking stuff from Star Wars and infusing it with our culture. We always had this movie playing in my house as a kid, so it's I know the whole movie.
Ogimasquest Princess Leia was voiced by Teresa Aishin. Wearing a dress with Ojibwe syllabics that in English means "May the Force be with you," she shares her favorite Anegung Migating line.
I mean, my favorite was the one where, can somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way? But in the language, it's not really translated like that. But it still has the same effect. And that one is like the one I just said. Yeah.
Ava McCons was one of her students who came to support her for this premiere.
She's a great teacher. She taught me lots. She taught me lots of songs. I know a lot more of the language because of her. She taught me different dialects,
making it easy for her to follow along throughout the movie. Behind the scenes, Pat Nugwans helped with the language.
I did the initial translation of the script, and then I brought people from different dialects to come and, try to make sure that the script is understood by as many people as possible.
Something that most appreciated here, as the Anishinaabemowin language can be tricky. A sentiment Dennis Chartrand, the Ojibwe Darth Vader, shares.
It was a constant revision and adaptation, I'll say, to make sure everything fits. And as you've seen in the movie, you had all those actors making it look like they spoke Anishinaabemowin. That was so cool to see finally.
And it paid off, says Simmons, who also happens to be Chartrand's own Jedi Master of Anishinaabemowin.
Yes, we both did. We taught in the community where he's from, so we've known him from a long, long time.
Pierre Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A lot of the APTN staff was also there that night, and we all clapped when each person was up there speaking, and it was such a fun night. The Snotty Nose Rez Kids are up next to talk to us about their 6th album due to release this September. Stick around for that. We're back in less than 3 minutes.
Over on the East Coast, St. John's 24, Fredericton 22.
Nain 15, Inujuak 13. Val-d'Or 20, Gasp 24. Sarnia 28, Ottawa 28 as well. Sioux Lookout 21, Timmins 19. Puckatawagan 23, God's Lake 22. Winnipeg 23, Barons River 24. Swift Current 34, Yorkton 24. Buffalo Narrows 29, Stony Rapids sunny and 28 there. Northern Alberta high level 26, Peace River 24. Lethbridge 35, Edmonton 32. Tofino 17, Bella Coola 19. Prince Rupert 16, Sandspit 15. Beaver Creek 26, Dawson 28. Yellowknife 26, Norman Wells 25. Sax Harbor 6, Inuvik 21. Baker Lake 26, Cambridge Bay 10. Arctic Bay 4 and Resolute 2. For the last 8 years, the Haisla hip-hop duo Snotty Nose Rez Kids, comprised of daring young D. Metz and Quinton Young Tribes Nice from Kitimat Village in British Columbia, has been giving us hit after hit after hit. This September, their 6th album titled Red Future will be released, and they have given us new summer singles like Kaleidoscope, Big Braid Energy, Red Future, and No Dogs Allowed. They also have a new CBC comedy series in production where they will play fictionalized versions of themselves, with Jennifer Podemski helping with the script. And this summer, they have been sharing the stage with rapper Ludacris and will launch their Red Future tour starting in Vancouver with 34 stops across North America. We recently spoke to SNRK and they join us now from Vancouver. Darren and Quinton, thank you for chatting with us. Congrats on your 6th album, Red Future, releasing on September 13th. Can you explain what messages you wanted to share with this album and how this one is different from your previous ones?
You know, this album is just everything that we learned along the way. You know, this is the self-titled Snotty Nose Rez Kids, Average Savage, this is Trapline, Life After, I'm Good, How About You? This is like us, almost like a full circle moment. And we are gonna take every listener on a roller coaster. That's for sure.
And this album is for the next generation, and it's letting people know that the work you do today affects tomorrow, and affects generations that come after us and the generation that'll come after them. So it's us being good to ourselves, and it's being good to the land that we stand on, and it's being good for our ancestors.
I can't wait to hear it. 34 stops across North America for the Red Future Tour. One of those stops is something very dear and special to your heart, Quinton, where in Santa Fe, New Mexico, you're unveiling your new fashion line, Savage Kids. Was this something you always wanted to do?
Yes, it actually is. Like, I grew up with a love for fashion. I grew up with a love for fabrics because of my grandma, because of my mom. And when I went to school for business administration, it was always so I could start my own business, start my own companies. And I only got my diploma, but it put me in the right path to be able to work towards what is now called Savage Kids.
You guys have been releasing new music, but you also got to share the stage with Ludacris recently. What was that like, and can we expect any collaborations with DTP in the future?
I smudge and pray that we do, but you know, it was a cool experience, man. It was just one of those moments where like you just be present and be in the moment, you know. And it was our first like arena show like that, so we got a little taste of it. So it kind of gave us that extra motivation just to keep going hard as we are.
Quinton, what was it like for you?
It was dope, you know, like it was cool. Like we played in front of bigger crowds. We played in front of in stadiums like that, kind of like that. But just being able to go on before Ludacris felt really good in our hearts because, you know, we grew up on Ludacris, and, you know, like he's what we call the future king, you know? So, like, there's not a song that Ludacris touches that isn't a banger. So, yeah, it felt really good. But like we said, when it comes to shows like that, we usually give artists their space, and I guess he just takes off right after his set. So we only had a brief conversation, but it was still an experience that I'll never forget.
That's awesome. And for the young up-and-coming Indigenous artists out there, what is your message to them to succeed in this business?
Honestly, it's just be yourself. You know what I mean? Like what we always like to say is like, tell your story the way that you want it to be told, and the world to gravitate towards it. You know, so if you try to get on there and be somebody else, it's not, sure, it may work for a bit, but it's not always going to work. You know what I mean? Like, and secondly, you got to be passionate about it. You got to be passionate about it, because that's something you can't teach. You can't teach passion. So it's, you got to love it. You got to love it, because it ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, and just like you said, stay true to yourself. Don't worry about what other people have to say about you or your craft or your art or just your creative process, because at the end of the day, all you have is yourself and and what you're passionate about. Like people that have negative stuff to say about you won't be there for your whole life. So just stay true to yourself.
These 34 stops, what are you most excited about? Like what location are you most looking forward to?
Every city.
Yeah, you know, like when we tour like this, it's kind of like there's one stop, and like each stop is just a part of a massive tour that's called Red Future. So the tour is nothing without each and every single stop that we are part of. So we are looking forward to the entire tour, to see all those beautiful brown faces, to play our music that we love so much, to play in front of all these crowds. We're just excited to get back on the road and just show the world what Red Future really is about.
Exactly. And, you know, yes, it's long hours on the road, but we love seeing all the different provinces. We love seeing all the different states, because each of them have their own unique vibe. You know what I mean? And yeah, we just love it. We love the journey.
Well, Young D and Young Tribes, a big thank you for chatting with us. We wish you both a safe journey on your tour, and we'll have to get you guys in studio in November when you're here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that'd be
And that's your midday newscast for this Monday, August 12th. We're back again in a few hours for your evening national newscasts. Make sure to join us again. From everyone from APTN National News, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching.